Your birth was a curse on the whole of humanity. Hi guys, my name's Kristen Green. I am the Nightmare on Elm Street cosplayer, Amanda Kruger, mother of the Freddy fetus, and you are listening to Elm Street Radio.
Hey, all you Elm Street fans, Diandra here.
And Paige.
Welcome to Elm Street Radio. Before we begin, I want to make one very important announcement / reminder. It is February, which means this month is Women in Horror Month. That 1 month out of the year when we go just a little bit harder to express our love for the incredible women in the horror world. And if you're anything like me and Paige, and pretty much anybody I know, there is no shortage of love for women in horror. I got into horror because of the women in horror, those final girls, particularly Nancy Thompson. And speaking of, as Elm Street fans, we know that the Nightmare on Elm Street films are just filled with incredibly badass women. Of course, Nancy, as I already mentioned. We've got Alice, we've got Lisa, we've got Sheila, we've got Yvonne, we've got Amanda, we've got Maggie, we've got Taryn and Kristen, and all of these incredible women all over who are just fabulous when it comes to kicking ass. I mean, these women are so strong, but they're so real at the same time, and they speak to us on so many different levels. And it's awesome to hear people's stories about how these women have inspired them. And I've talked about it a lot, but you guys know that the women in the Nightmare on Elm Street films inspire me, which is why I'm really, really, really excited to have Kristen on today, who is not only a woman in the horror world and a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan, she also cosplayed one of the incredibly cool women from the Nightmare on Elm Street films, which is how she is on this show right now. Is she cosplayed Amanda Kruger with this really awesome costume that she entered into our Elm Street Radio costume contest, and she was one of the runners-up. And so I got to see it in person in Flashback Weekend over the summer, and it was even cooler than it looks in the photos. And there's a picture of her with her costume on, and then there's a prop Freddy from Nightmare 5, and we've got her next to Lisa Wilcox. I mean, this photo is just freaking mind-blowing. So, which you can probably see it now because I have put it up in the video. And if you're listening to this via podcast, well, you should definitely go and check her out. She is on our Facebook page. I don't want to pause too long. I really want to get into this conversation with her. Really excited to talk to her. And we will be celebrating women in horror all month through Elm Street Radio. So check us out on Facebook. There's a call to action right now. If you love one particular Elm Street lady or a couple of them that really stand out to you, try to hone in on a very select few, you can send us a 1-minute audio clip to elmstreetradio@gmail.com talking about this, and you might get your own little feature about your love for this particular heroine. So check that out on our Facebook page. There are some rules, and there's the submission deadline. I think it might be February 17th, but I'm having a brain fart right now. So go ahead and check that out. Also, Fredheads the documentary. Submit your story. Time is running out. Gonna be the end of February soon, before you know it, so get on it. And also, Indiegogo for Fredheads is going on right now. And if you jump on it to help us make this documentary really special, because, you know, we want to tell as many stories as possible, and with your help, we can do so. Plus, if you get involved right now, you might be getting something special that other people might not get if they try to buy the DVD later on. So check that out on our Indiegogo and at Fredheads the documentary on Facebook. Oh man, I don't know about you, but I'm getting the weird feeling like I'm heading into a church and like baby Freddy's about to pop up, which means it must be time to welcome Kristen to our show.
Your birth was a curse on the whole of humanity. I I will not allow it to happen again. You brought me back to give you life, but now I must take yours.
We'll see, bitch. We'll just see.
Welcome, costume extraordinaire, costume winner, runner-up for the Elm Street Radio costume contest, Kristen Green.
Hi, guys. How are ya?
Hey.
So
Such
good.
a pleasure
Thank
to
you
be
for coming
here.
on.
No, thank you for having me. This is such an honor. I'm so stoked. I've listened for a while, so this is really cool for me.
That's so awesome.
That is really awesome. I remember seeing you in person in that Amanda Kruger costume at Flashback. And it was like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anybody cosplay Amanda like that and in such a in-your-face way. First of all, where did you find the nun costume? Did you make that or?
It's actually, well, it's a funny story. It's actually a costume that I ordered from, like, I was just Googling online, like, white nun, whatever. And it's actually an American Horror Story nun costume that I then took and, of course, bloodied it up, made it my own. So it's still in the horror genre. It's just, borrowed from another world, if you will.
I love it. I remember when we were standing there and we were like in the middle of the convention floor and Diandra grabs my arm and she's like, "Oh my God, Paige, turn around right now." And so I turn around and there you were. And like, it was like a holy shit moment. Like, it was one of the best costumes I think we've ever seen. Oh. And it was so beautifully brilliant. I know as like costumers and stuff like that, we have all these crazy ideas, but what made you decide to do Amanda Kruger? Because I don't think I've seen a whole lot, if not anybody, ever do Amanda Kruger.
Yeah.
Well, it's a crazy story, actually. So I was actually the first time, Flashback was the second time that I've done that particular cosplay, if you will, for a convention. The first time I did it, I was actually, I want to say it was November, and then I had my baby in April. So I was pretty visibly pregnant the first time I did it. And it was actually, I would say I was, so if I had the baby in April, so it was November. So you could definitely see like a for sure baby bump. And that was always my thing was, like if I ever have another baby, because my older son is 11 and then I have a 9-month-old. So there's quite a gap there. And I always said, if I ever have another baby, if I ever get pregnant again, I don't know if I ever will, but if I do, this is my like go-to. I have to do this. People do like these beautiful maternity shoots with like flowers in a meadow. I'm like, let me slap some blood and guts and latex on it and birth a demon. Each their own for sure. But so at Flashback, I did it because James Azrael from the Horror Sci-Fi Prop Preservation Company, they do amazing work.
Yeah, I remember them.
He had our baby, the Freddy baby, as one of his, I don't believe it was screen used, but it was like a one made from the screen used mold. And he was the one who convinced me kind of gave me you should definitely do it again. So I was postpartum at Flashback. I had just had the baby. But he was like, I'm bringing your baby. You got to come. I did a whole photo shoot with HSPPA, like an impromptu thing when I was pregnant where they set it up and it looked like they put me in a chair and they, put the baby underneath me and people were stopping and taking pictures. The convention came over. It was crazy. So he's like, we're bringing the baby to Flashback. Lisa Wilcox is going to be there. You got to do it again. So the rest is history.
That's so awesome.
Neat. When you said, when you were like, so he had the baby, I was like, oh, is that the father of the Freddy? Didn't know that. Fun Elm Street factoid.
No, he had the one that they used in Nightmare 5. So, he was like, I'm bringing it. And so I guess apparently the day before, because when that photo was taken of Lisa and I was on Sunday of the convention, I've always sort of, I'm really new to the whole convention world, if you will. I feel like it's something I've always sort of wanted to do, but I don't know. I didn't dip my toe in the pool until a little bit later in life, I would say. And so I always get gun shy on Saturday when I go. I'm like, I'm just going to like be in normal clothes and see what other people are doing. See if it's like, maybe I'm not even that good. I don't know. I get a little shy. So then Sunday I was like, okay, I can do this. I got it. And I guess the day before, Lisa had come to the booth and told James Azriel, she said, "Oh, you have my baby." And he's like, "What? What do you mean?" "Oh, the Freddie baby. Oh, haha." So we joked when that photo was taken of Lisa and I, we joked that she was my birthing coach, but we were like co-parents of this, prop Freddie baby that everyone was. It was just, it was such a great, she's so great. It was.
I love that.
One of the defining moments of my life, I would say. Short of actually giving birth to my real son.
Giving birth to baby Freddie. Not many people can say that. So
exactly.
You are new to the convention scene. Now, when was the first time that you met Robert? And I know that a lot of people have really interesting stories, and a lot of people, I think, I'm kind of new, and especially when it comes to Robert, and I've heard sometimes people have to wait in line for hours. Some people get tickets, so when was the first time that you ever met Robert, and what was that like?
Oh my gosh. So that actually wasn't at a convention. I mean, it was, they had a little setup, but it was actually in 2013. They did here in Chicago, or like the Chicago suburbs, they have this theater called Hollywood Boulevard. And it's basically like this movie theater that they will occasionally bring in like actors who have been in movies. They'll show a film and they'll bring in an actor and they'll do like a signing or something while they're doing like this day-long screening of a film. So they did that for Nightmare 1 in 2013. And we waited in line. It was November, so it was pretty cold here in Chicago. And we waited in line. My friend Miranda, if you're listening, bless your soul, waited in line with me. And it was literally like 9 hours by the time all of a sudden done. We're sitting outside, very ill prepared for the Chicago. I think I had like a hoodie, and we were going into like the little store that was out there to we bought like pairs of fun Halloween socks to like put on our hands because it was so cold. But we did it. We waited in line, and we wound up meeting Robert. I think I sent you a photo of it. I had done this, I had a glove with me, and I had done just some like basic latex, latex and Mayron, just gross looking scars down my face with blood and stuff. And so I love to play around when I'm going to do something like that. And he was definitely, I don't think it was as much of a shock factor as the Amanda look, but, yeah, I walked in and he was so cool. He was so he has this commanding way of just all eyes in the room were on him at all times. He's telling stories. He personally took time to talk to each person that came up and really hear what they had to say. And he was so great. My name being Kristen, I have a family, little tall tale, I guess, that was told to me by my aunt, that if it wasn't for Nightmare 3, Patricia Arquette, I would have been Beatrice or possibly Gertrude, maybe. I don't know. So I was telling him this, thank goodness for you and Wes Craven, I'm Kristen instead of Beatrice. And he told me this lovely story about, in Italian, it's Beatrice, and he was so great. It was awesome. And he signed my item. And my favorite thing that has ever happened, one of my favorite things in my life, when you go to these things, you walk up and, he signs your thing and you're talking for a second, and then they move you over. If you have a photo up, you kind of wait off to the side, and then he sort of does everyone's photos at once. So it's like they kind of shuttle you through. And so he stands up to to get ready to take photos with everybody. And he stands up and he buttons his suit coat, like buttons the little button on his coat, grabs the Freddy glove. And of course, all eyes in the room, like I said, are just on the man. He is just so vivacious and commanding. And he grabs the Freddy glove and he puts it on all dramatically. And then he turns slow and he points the finger at me. And he goes, in the Freddy voice, mind you, I'm mind blown. He goes, "All right, bitch, let's do this." And I have never jumped up and down and squealed in the face of a famous person ever. But as soon as he opened his mouth and that voice came out, I lost it, girls. I lost it. I was jumping up and down like a little teeny bopper. It was the coolest thing. So I was hooked then. I'm like, I have to go to everything now. I have to see more. I have to do more. It really hooked me in.
I love that so much. This whole horror world is such a small it's a small world. Everything is so connected. I was supposed to go to that show. I remember when he was there, and I remember hearing stories about how much fun he was that day. They unfortunately capped the line before I could get there. I'm like, I drove an hour.
Oh my gosh, girl. Had I known you then, you could have just hopped in with us.
I just hopped in with you. But hearing that story, it just warms my heart because he's so good to the fans. And I love that that's what your experience was because, that's an awesome experience. I'm I love it.
Well, it definitely gave me the bug for sure. And it's funny because at that show, or at that, thing that they were doing there, they actually had street team members on the ground for Days of the Dead, which was the first actual convention I ever went to. And props to Adolfo and Rick Lara, man. Their people. They're good because they got me with the flyer at that show. And after meeting Robert, I was like, I got to do more stuff like this. And so started going to Days of the Dead from getting that flyer, seeing that Sid Haig was on it. And I just, Robert definitely reeled me in hook, line, and sinker. But with seeing what else there was out there, getting that flyer at that show just completely brought it all full circle. And my company, I'm the marketing director for plug for Last Call Tavern Group, which is a bar group here in Chicago. And we actually sponsored Days of the Dead this last year, doing the special effects makeup competition and the costume competition. So it all kind of came full circle. I got to make my work part of my passion, which, it's nothing makes you happier than being able to mix your business with things you enjoy, right? So I'm a lucky girl.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. So which Days of the Dead convention was the first one? Because if you met Robert in 2013, what was the next days after that you went to?
It was really shortly thereafter because it was it was the beginning of November that they had so it had to be the next year then, I think. I'm of course, everything all blurs together when you have children. I have no mind half the time. But I believe it was the very next year was the one I went to. And I think the flyer that I got wasn't for Chicago. It was for another city. But they were still handing out, they'll send out promo, stuff for all the different cities they do. And I'm assuming it must have been they were promoting Indy or something like that at the time. Because I remember saying, this is in Indianapolis, I can't go to this. But then I started following them on Facebook and et cetera, et cetera. So it had to be that next year, I think, in Chicago.
Oh, that is so awesome. Paige, were you guys at the 2014 one in Chicago or no? I wasn't. I don't think I wasn't there.
You weren't there. I think that I think that 2014 one in Chicago, I think that's the one that had Lisa Tuesday and Heather. And I'm trying to think. Because
I think the first year that I went to Chicago when I met you was 2012, and then you guys went in 2013.
Right.
But I don't think
I went. No, you know what? It had to be the 2013 one that I went to then, because Lisa and all them, the first time I ever met any of those people was, it's so funny piecing your horror life together.
I know.
The first time I met any of those amazing ladies was at Flashback. So I don't think I made the 2014 one. So it had to be 13 then. So maybe it was the one right after.
It could have been. It could have been. I'm trying to think. I wonder. I think it was the 2013 because I think 2014 is when I went to Indy. When I went to the Indy show for the first time.
Because that's like, I'm like thinking back to like all these times that we could have potentially crossed paths.
I know.
Days of the Dead.
It's so crazy. I mean, the world is so, like, everybody I'll follow someone on Instagram, and that happened to me recently when I was in New Orleans. I had been following this artist on Instagram forever, the Butcho Vision guy. And I was in New Orleans just on vacation, and I randomly stumbled into this store, and I'm seeing all this really cool, like, horror art and stuff. I'm like, I've seen this stuff on Instagram before. And I realized as I'm putting it together, buying all these pins like a mad woman, I'm like, oh my gosh, I followed this guy on Instagram for like a year. And it's just so small how the world, or it's so strange how small the horror community really is. It's so great. I'm actually listening to Jim's episode. Congratulations to him, by the way. His stuff was amazing. But seeing his episode, or listening to his, I'm like, I know I've met Mark Patton and had really great conversations with him too. So it was just, it's funny how we all sort of managed to come full circle with each other somehow or another.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So what, like, how did you get started on A Nightmare on Elm Street? Because your family was obviously like watching it, and kind of walk us through your fandom a little bit from when you started until now, and maybe mention some other standout meet and greets along the way, and just kind of looking back and then seeing where you are right now as a fan.
So I first had the Elm Street bug, I would say. I had to be about 4 or 5, I want to say. And my aunt, my mother's sister, she had a VHS copy of The Dream Child, which of the ones in the series is near and dear to my heart, but it's not necessarily like, I wouldn't say I'm like, oh, that's the best one or anything like that. It just happens to be, the one that she had or whatever. And I remember she would, play it, and I would sneak, little peeks or whatever, but I was never afraid of Freddy. It's and it's funnily enough, my father's name is Fred, and my grandmother's name, which is the name I would have been, Beatrice, had I, not been Kristen. The actress who plays Amanda Kruger, her name is Beatrice.
I was going to mention that earlier.
So it's like, it's just funny to me how, like, and jokingly, when I was younger, people would call my dad Freddy Krueger, and, we'd laugh. But my family really per se isn't, they're not necessarily like super into horror. I think it's just something that I've always just loved. I don't know, from being little. The poster that Robert signed for me was the original poster from Nightmare 4 that I've had. We had a family friend who owned a video store when I was really young. And I think I've had it, I don't even know, for, years and years and years. Every move I've ever made, the thing is covered in tape and holes and all that stuff, but I've had it forever. So yeah, it's from like a little girl. And I went through growing up. I grew up in California. I lived with my dad. He pretty much raised me by himself. So a lot of those issues with, I remember at the panel, they talked about how Elm Street has always addressed, a lot of really different themes in a horror movie that might, at the time, with alcoholism and all the things that they do address, and Alice's relationship with her father, and just that scene where, she walks up and slams his dinner on the table. I mean, I grew up with my dad, and I feel like I definitely could relate to that relationship at times. Not that he was like, a crazy alcoholic or anything like their father was in the movie, but just that dynamic of, So it's always resonated with me in one way or another. I feel like I can always, every time I watch these movies, whether it's just catching it on a marathon on TV, or saying like, I'm having a really shitty day, I'm going to put on, Nightmare 3 or, whatever. I always find something new to love, or some new reason why, like, this is why I love these films. This is why I love, and it always is my comfort. I feel like no matter what I'm going through at the time, I can always just escape into that world. And I know the predictable ending, the heroine and Nancy and her strength, and Alice too, the whole Alice Lives thing. I love that. I always feel like no matter what I'm going through at the time, it's always a place I can go to. I'm not going to cry. I'm such a mom. It's always like home, no matter what you're going through, no matter where you live or what's going on in your life. I went through some health stuff a few years back with, I had stage 2B uterine cancer. And I just remember like, going through radiation and feeling like garbage, and just, that was always, horror was always something, that no matter what you're afraid of, you can always turn to, scary stuff, and it kind of helps me get through it. So the franchise in many ways has definitely saved me and opened up new alleyways for me to explore creatively, with makeup and all that. I mean, it's just, I could go on and on. You'd need 5 other episodes for me to keep exploring the virtues of the franchise and of these, actors. And I have never cried as hard as I did when Wes Craven died. Imagining a world where, with my children, where they don't get to grow up with a new, because we had, obviously in our generation, we had Scream, we had, all these other, just, he was such a brilliant mind, and imagining a world where my children don't get to have, a ghost face of their own or a Freddy of their own, like what would he have done next? What would this generation get if he were still here? So yeah, it's kind of definitely come full circle for me. I feel like when I met Heather and walking up to her in that outfit, and she just, the look on her face, and she just started breaking out laughing, and she's like, I really have seen it all now. Like, she saw me in the costume, and she's like, you fans are just, insane, and this is so, she goes, when did you start watching this? At 4? Oh, and look, you turned out great. Okay, this is what happens when you start watching nightmare movies at 4. But I don't know. I feel like I said, I could go on and on and on, but it's taken me 30 some odd years to start really exploring this world and getting out there and, meeting the actors and actresses that I grew up watching on TV, and in my little VHS collection I had that I had to buy behind my dad's back because he thought it would, was inappropriate or whatever. But I think I turned out okay. And I just took my 11-year-old to his first convention. He's never seen any of the movies, but he likes to watch the internet documentaries about the movies. So yeah, that's so awesome. It's definitely a family affair now. So,
we've had several of the alumni on our show before, and that's kind of one of the common themes that we talk about, is pretty much what your story is that, it just connects with so many different people, and this franchise really is a home, and it's a community. And your story, I feel like you're my soul sister. We have so much of the similar story, and I know that I could hear it in your voice, just knowing how much this franchise means to you, and just really calling the movies your comfort and your home. It's a very impactful thing, and we talk about it often, about how it's changed people's lives, and you're a living testament to that, and I'm so thankful that you're here with us today on this show.
Oh, thank you. I'm such a mom. I'm such a sap. You should see me. I've got these big fat tears running down my face. It's gross.
No, but
I just had a baby. I have hormones.
But it's so beautiful because, we've probably said it a million times about that the franchise means a lot to people, and everybody takes away something from it, but that a movie and horror, people think you go to horror movies for comfort. It's like what Wes said, horror movies, horror doesn't create fear, it releases it, because there's so much going on in your life, And horror is the chance for you to have control over something scary. But at the same time, there's something in these movies that, whether or not most people realize it or not, that really is a big commentary on human nature, whether it's facing your fears or it's learning how to, what kind of person you want to be when you grow up. And I just think that's so beautiful. So first of all, you are so incredibly strong for everything you did when you had that, when you were faced with the big C. And that is just, it's inspiring. And I think I'm personally kind of a little bit of a weak soul. And to hear you being able to overcome that, apart from being, you is such a heroine thing, to stay strong and stay optimistic and just keep moving forward on your own, even outside of everything that A Nightmare on Elm Street has helped you with.
Well, thank you so much for that. That's such a huge compliment coming from you ladies. I mean, you guys have this platform that allows, people like me or people like us to find our little tribe. And, I think I saw on Facebook recently, Diandra, you posted something about having female friends or having a very select number of female friends. And I feel like something for me, I feel like the reason I've always resonated so much more, even though being named Kristen, I've always resonated so much more with Alice, because I love that she, finding her strength, she found it in little pieces of all the people around her. I'm going to cry. Stop crying, girl.
Let it out. Cry it out.
Yeah.
She found her strength, the strength that she needed to defeat, Freddie, or to defeat, what she was going through. She found that in little pieces of everyone around her that she loved. And I feel like and I read your Facebook post, and I thought to myself, I just really wish there were, that females inherently were more like us, or more like Alice, where you take those little parts and building each other up and using the people around you, as your strength. And I feel like that's always been, no matter what's been going on for me, I have some really amazing people in my life, even just my little tribe of friends, that, to have a platform to, be able to discuss all this stuff. You guys you've given so much to the community, and all of that stuff is everything you're saying coming out of your mouth right now about me it's such an honor, because you guys see it all. And I'm sure you go to tons of conventions and you run into tons of different people, and, you've made your own personal relationships with all the talented actors and actresses and stuff. So to extol my virtues like that, you got me all kerfuffled. But I just really, I can't say enough how it's such a true testament to this community. We're all so loving and supportive of each other, and that's, if there were more Diandras and Paiges and Kristens and all these other people, my friend Sandy comes with me to all these things. She holds my hand through all the different things that that comes with the horror convention life, and the late nights in the hotel bar, and the schlepping everything to and from the car in freezing weather while I'm covered in blood and goo. So
she's your ride or die. That's what
she holds it down. She'll hold my purse when people want to take pictures with me. It's I don't know if I've ever had I don't know that I could ever be a celebrity or would ever want to deal with anything that goes with that. But she's definitely got it down. If you need assistance in that realm, man, it's great.
That should be on a shirt. Best friends hold each other's purses while they cover themselves in blood.
Right? All right, let's get Atomic Cotton on that one. Let's make
right
another.
Someone design it up. Let's do it.
Oh, well, Kristen.
Speaking of costumes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You go. You go.
All right. What are you working on any other costumes right now? I know that you have the Amanda Kruger, which is amazing. But have you thought about doing any other costumes at any of the upcoming conventions, or are you planning to go to any more conventions soon? Or what are your thoughts? What's coming up with the world with Kristen Green?
I did this last Days of the Dead that we were at, Days of the Dead Chicago this year, was, again, the first year my company, I kind of nudged my owners in a direction saying, hey, horror fans like to drink. We own bars. Let's make our world synonymous. So when they think scary things in Chicago and they want to go eat and drink, I wanted to make sure our logo was burned in the minds of horror fans. So this year, I didn't go full out like Amanda Kruger craziness. I did on Saturday during the day this last year. I did a what's it called? Exorcist, Linda Blair, because Linda Blair was at Days of the Dead Chicago this year, and I did it for fun. That's one that I've done for quite a while now, just like for Halloween, just whatever for Halloween. It's just one that's always been in my back pocket. And I didn't want to wait. Linda Blair had an insane line, and with me trying to walk around and hand out koozies and free t-shirts and all the things I was doing to try to promote my company, I didn't really have time to wait in a lot of lines, but I wound up using the restroom at the convention, and the way Days of the Dead is set up is when you walk in, or at least in Chicago, when you walk in towards you're heading towards the main show floor and you check in, there's a restroom right across from where you the main restroom is right across from where you go check in. I went in to use the bathroom, and as I'm coming out of the stall, Linda Blair is walking into my stall and stops me, and she's like, "You look great. You look so great." So I got the ultimate reward in the girls' bathroom. It's your dream moment when the cool girl at school tells you she likes your makeup, except it's Linda Blair and you're covered in slime and latex and green vomit.
Okay, that's it. Everyone, I want a camera on at all times. Yeah. She has had the most amazing fan moments, and we need to be documenting this.
Oh, I know, and I didn't think about it at the time. I just took the compliment and was like, thank you so much, and walked away. I didn't think to ask for the picture in the bathroom. So this year I didn't really do a whole lot. I did a little Exorcist one just for fun, because it's my playground too. I like to play around. I am trying to, girls, I have to pick your brain about this. I am trying to go to Days of the Dead Charlotte. They have announced, they're doing it looks like there's going to be a chunk of Nightmare 3 guests that they're having, and they've already announced Heather, and I thought that I saw recently that Robert is supposed to be in Charlotte right before that Days of the Dead, but they still have, when they do their show announcements, they still have a mystery, top billed mystery guest spot open next to Heather's picture, so it's got to be something to do with Nightmare 3. I don't know if it could possibly be Robert, because I thought he's in Charlotte right before that, someone said. So are we thinking we could possibly get Patricia Arquette there? Or what are your thoughts? I don't know. I have no idea what to think.
I would say go to Days Indie.
Okay. I'm, say nothing more. I don't know. I mean, I figure you ladies know if you can't reveal any sources or can't say anything. I understand.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Patricia Arquette.
Me neither.
If you're gonna choose any convention, go to Days Indie.
Yeah, not to poop on Charlotte, but Indie is the OG. It's the OG Days of the Dead, and it's pretty special convention. So I would say
Hint, hint.
Yes.
Go to Days Indie.
Days Indie.
Not for everyone listening, but for everyone.
Everybody else plug your ears. Nothing was said.
It was really just a thought, because I'm like looking at this billing, like, and they have the whole lineup of Nightmare 3 that they've announced so far, like the big, reunion or whatever. And then they've got Heather, and they've got that one open, like, more announcements coming soon. So I'm like, who in the world else could you possibly get that's like top billing like that? If it's not Robert, who could it possibly be? That was my only thought. I don't know. So
you know who I would love for them to get, and I don't know why he doesn't do it, and I don't know why he didn't do Never Sleep Again.
Is it Craig?
But I would love for Craig. Craig Wasson.
Yes.
Oh, but Neil is such a weenie.
I know, but Neil
I'm
and
salty
Nancy,
about
like
Neil.
it's an epic thing.
Oh God, no, it's not. Neil is not worthy of Nancy Thompson. Let's be honest here. And if you're a Neil fan, I don't know what to say for you. He's just like
a dream warrior.
He's like, Neil, now that we've met, and he like weanily flips over the table. I'm like, could you please? What is this? A Spanish soap opera? Calm
He's like
down.
the Real Housewives of the Nightmare series.
Oh my God, he is. I never thought of it like that, but he so is.
This is going to make me sound really bad.
Of,
oh my God, I'm going to sound really bad actually knowing who this is, but is he like the, oh crap, oh shoot, who is the, oh frick, you know what? Maybe it's a good thing I had a brain fart on her name.
He's like Teresa
yes.
Giudice.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't do a whole lot of reality TV, but I mean, everybody remembers that big table flipping moment. But yes, oh my gosh, he is. That's so funny. But I mean, even if it were one of them, I mean, do you really think like that would be like, would he be like the top? Like, I guess if they're doing a reunion, maybe I guess that would be the spot they would put him in. I don't know.
It could be because he's not done it before, so it's kind of like an exclusive first time. So it's a possibility. But
yeah. No, well,
I don't know. I think he's focusing on his music career, or quote unquote. Sorry.
He and Ari Lehman should start a band. The real Jason and
the real Jason and Neil of the horror. Oh my God. Don't even get me started. Well, Kristen,
I may go to Indy then. Now that sounds like a plan.
Yes.
I'm there.
Wink, wink, nudge, 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 nudge. Well, Kristen, before we go, if you have any final thoughts for your fellow Nightmare fans out there, or any words of wisdom to share?
Words of wisdom. No, I mean, I guess not really words of wisdom per se, but just, thank you to everybody that's a part of this community. It's, all of you, all the creepy piggies that come to these conventions, and you wait in line and share your drinks in hotel bars late at night and talk about where you bought your patches on your jacket and all the joys that come with being a part of this world. It's such a pleasure to be amongst you and to call myself one of you. So just thank you all. This is such an honor, and I hope to see all of you milling around at some show or other in the future. Stop me and say hey.
I raise my coffee mug to that. Amen.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kristen. It has been a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you, ladies. Such an honor. Anytime you need anything, I'm here.